A good Erev Shabbos to everybody. Welcome. This is my first appearance here in the with Kesher Nafshi, and I have to give a big yasher koyach to my dear friend Yechiel Rivlin, who asked me to come and joined. It seems to be, from just getting the feeling of a few minutes here, I'm not here that long, but it's an organization of Kesher Nafshi, but to me it seems more like a family of Kesher Nafshi. See people, the friendliness, the togetherness, very, very warm and welcoming. It's a tremendous, tremendous chus to be part of such a Halakha organization. And like I said, a family. The topic that I was asked to discuss, the holding the family together in a time of crisis, a very serious topic. I'm sure all the topics are serious, but this is a very serious topic that needs a lot of time, and I don't know if we have enough time to discuss it today, but I will give my insight into the subject, and I will try to help us maybe understand a little mahalach, some mahalach again. This is my opinion and from my knowledge, siyat d'shmaya. I'm sure that there's other opinions out there, but the main nekuda that we have to realize before we start the topic is the lashon of crisis. I think we have to redefine or rename it. That the first approach that we have to, when we come to any situation that is difficult, his call is by us, it's an nisayon. It's an nisayon, and I think that's a very, very important point to know, because crisis is very, very, very something that brings fear. Crisis brings something to a person to a lot of anxiety, and not to underestimate, and not to make it seem smaller, that it's not important. A crisis is very serious. It destroys families, destroy communities. But we have to realize, as believing Jews, as Yidden who understand that there's nothing in life that's not specific, 100% specific to that individual or those individuals, specific in the type of challenges, specific in the amount of the challenge, specific how long the challenge is going to last, and specific how many times the person will be challenged with these different things. Everything is exact, and that's one of the things we learn. One of the main yisodos of these parashiyos is to understand the unbelievable hashgacha pratis that there is in the world. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything that comes to the world is 100% hashgacha pratis. We saw this week's parasha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, two people were drinking the same cup. One, there was blood in the cup. The Mitzri was drinking with a straw. That same cup came out from it blood. And the same exact cup, not a different cup, not the same exact cup the Yid was drinking from, there was water. How is it possible? The Bereshit was exact. That is called Hashgacha Pratis. That's the word Hashem Elokeinu. When we say Hashem Elokeinu, Elokeinu means the Bereshit was Hashem Elokeinu. Hashgacha Pratis miyuchades, especially for Klal Yisrael. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives his mashkiach bepratius, and just like when something good happens, there's Hashgacha Pratis, why it happened to me exactly. So too, when we're presented with a challenge, that's Hashgacha Pratis, that is exactly for that person. And we know the Farshim, the Chazals, that a person comes down to this world, he's given a choice which challenges that he's going to choose. They're made miyuchad for his mission in life. And like we understand that, and this is part of the presentation today, how to give over. The first step on how to deal with a crisis in the family is the first step is to, first of all, understand that we're going through an Yisrael. We're going through a challenge right now. Not to sit aside and just let things happen. To sit down and bring the family together and discuss with them that this is a challenge and a sign from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have to realize as a family that we have to now gird our strengths. We have to use all our powers, whatever's within us, to now deal with the struggle that we're going to have. And of course, when the struggle hits a family, obviously the leaders of the family, the parents, they're the ones who have the most responsibility to make sure, to ensure that the family is held together. Obviously each individual, like we said, it's an assignment for everyone in the family. Even the kid that's not going through the challenge, his brother has the same assignment. How many families are brought down because one kid has a challenge and the other child is left, in the blank. He doesn't know really what's going on until he finds out. He's gone through trauma, he's gone through difficulties, he has no one to talk to, he wasn't involved, he wasn't brought into the picture. And when he finally opens up and finally, starts to discuss a little what's going on in his life, it may be too late. He's already traumatized to a high level. It's important when there's a challenge that's coming to the family that the head of the family takes the responsibility, takes the horse by the reins, and starts to, first of all, define what the challenge is, and then call the family together and discuss. Sometimes openly, sometimes individually. He has to know the nature of his family, but to discuss with them that we're going through the challenges and to define the challenge, and then to mention and be there for the child and say how much he's ready to be out there, whatever is necessary for the child, the children, each one on their own level, which is so important. Now this is something that will digress to a topic that's being discussed these days. Aleinu, Klal Yisrael went through a terrible tragedy, on so many different levels this last few weeks with the story that just came out in Eretz Yisrael. And anybody, I didn't grow up, but for 35 years I lived in Eretz Yisrael, the Kufa, now I'm in America, and seeing what's going on, it just, for me, it's mind-boggling. I mean, everybody grew up with these books. Every child in Eretz Yisrael held this man to be a hero, and so many got from his books and his chinuch. And now to discover all the things that are going on, and with the end, what happened recently, it's just mind-boggling. I don't know how much in America we could understand this, but in the Eretz Yisrael, the people coming from Eretz Yisrael, the people living in Eretz Yisrael, are living through a tragedy. Kids don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. The victims are so distraught. Obviously, the victims, our hearts go out to them. But one thing that I think is so important to learn from this topic is that how much a parent has to know that you are there to protect your child. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu made us such mitzias with a parent and a child, and the child grows up very vulnerable. He comes to the world with nothing. The parent has to give, and the parent has to train, and the parent has to get into a certain age. But one of the most important jobs of a parent is to protect their child. And protect their child means to know where their child is, who is he busy with, not sending him off on just random places, and even when he's going to somebody who we believe is probably, to be aware and to observe and to know what's going on behind the scenes. We can't just trust Hashem Yerachim, we can't just trust anybody and everybody today. Today, we've been in a world that Hashem Yerachim has so many, we've seen so many different tragedies and these types of inyanim. And we can't be quiet anymore. We have to develop a system, and starting with the parents and developing it to larger, into communities with askanim, where there has to be follow-up, there has to be some type of observation, even with the best situations, but to know what's going on, where your child is, and what's happening with him, and to be involved and make sure that he's protected. Physically, emotionally, in all ways. Abuse is not only on one level, abuse is on many levels. And if we don't protect our child, we're in for destruction. If we let things just go and everything goes smooth, we have to be in touch with the principals and the schools and the therapists if they're going to therapists, and be following up, being in touch and being on top of the hand on the pulse in every which way. To avoid chas v'shalom such things. I'm not getting into guilty, non-guilty. That's not the point over here. The point is a parent has to know the first thing is my job as a parent that I have to protect. To my ability, the Baruch Hashem is the ultimate protector, Shem Yisrael. But to know, the child has to know this. One of the most important things, and this goes into this, it's very nogea what we're discussing. One of the most important things for a child to grow up healthy, emotionally, on all levels, is that he understands that he has the security of his parents, of his mother and father. There's security there. What breaks the child apart when he feels he's alone. No one wants to be alone. A child's not born in the jungle. He's born into a home, is Hashem, with parents, healthy parents, Mitzvah Hashem. And the parents have to create that bubble of security, that he feels secure. He feels that you know, Baruch Hashem, that he's in a home where there's stability. And then when a crisis hits, when something hits that's not, everything is not the norm anymore. There are things that mommy might have to be going out of the house early and staying out late. And Tati might be missing a lot now. So now there's going to be a crack in that stability. The child deserves to know, the family deserves to know that we're still there for each and every one of them. How and when and what, how you're going to do it, how to juggle it, the responsibilities are enormous now. But a person has to find a way that every child realizes that I'm still there for them. Whether it's through telephones, whether it's through other ways. Avada today, when a crisis will come, when the sign hits a family, Baruch Hashem today, Baruch Hashem, the Yiddish community is so, Baruch Hashem, equipped with so many different organizations and so many different people that are there to help. And we have to know that when we're in a difficulty, the main thing is we have to ask for help. People that don't like to ask for help, it shows the weakness. Hashem Yerachim, the Baruch Hashem created a world of Olam Chesed Yibana. The tachlis of this world is Chesed, and that means when something hits a family, some difficulty hits it, whether financially, whatever in any area, a person has to realize that Kodesh Baruch Hu made a whole world of Chesed, and that's how the Baruch Hashem wants the world to run. And then we have to reach out. We have to look to the different organizations, the different people that could help. Because it's not, it becomes almost impossible to juggle all the responsibilities now. This is too much on the person's plate. And when it gets way too much, the children suffer. And the number one priority on your list is your children. Of course, if it's a different child that you're dealing with right now, he deserves the first licks. But at the end of the day, after that, every single other child has to get the attention, has to be cared for. And a child has to know that, so but have to speak to him, and whenever you have time, extra time to spend with him, to realize that Hagam, that it looks like I'm giving so much attention to this child, but to find and explain it to everybody, obviously it has to be on his level. An older child can understand more, and we get lower to the lower ages, they understand less, but you have to explain it. They have to know, they have to be involved. And they have to realize that this is a test from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are our children's parents, but we're also their Iker Rebbe. Of course, today we hire Rabbi, but we have to know. The pasuk says, it's very fascinating. So say to the Beis Yankov, V'sagid b'nei Yisrael, and then say to b'nei Yisrael. What are we talking about in the Torah over there? The Torah is talking about When HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to give the Torah, and he says, first, tell the women, speak to the women. And afterwards, speak to Bnei Yisrael. And the Mefarshim asked the question. The Rishonim already asked the question. Although the Torah was given for learning the Torah, the men are going to learn the Torah. Why does the Pasuk describe and discuss the women first? Rabbi Moshe, and I found that other Rishonim, but Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says very fascinating. He says, you're right. The men will learn the Torah. But who's going to nurture the Torah? Who develops the child in the early years? Who brings the child to a level? Who brings the child for the early years to his connection, to his love? The mama, the mother that's in the house, that's nurturing the child and bringing it up and feeding the child. And in those early years, when the child is early development, there's established his kesher nafshi to Torah, to mitzvahs, which later on is very, very hard to change. Therefore, says Moshe, speak to the women, because this is about the future of Klal Yisrael. This is about the future of our nation. This is about the future, how we're going to be able to develop. Speak to the women first. They're the ones who get the first available chinuch is by the mother. When she has those early years together, how she develops the child in those early years has a big say on how it's going to turn out. And Rav Moshe speaks also there of the early Rabbeim, the early years. People think today it's very, it's not so bekavadik to get a job as a first grade Rebbe, a primary Rebbe. The more chavadik petitions are later on. But the early years when we nurture the child, those are the years that stay in forever. When it goes in the early ages, the impressions that are made. Yeshua b'Chananya, Mishnah says, Ashrei yoladetecha, praise is your birthday. What was the pshat? His mother used to take his little stroller, baby carriage, and she's put it in the base of Medrash. And as a baby, he would hear the sounds of Torah. And the Chazal say, from there, Ashrei yoladetecha, from there came his impressions. So the mother gets the first licks. Therefore, the mother on her side is a main contributor to the chinuch. Even if she sends a kid from primary, even if she sends him to play group, but she's a main contributor in the problem of the chinuch. The father in the same way, from the early years in the house, the Shabbosis, the whole Netzias of the home, how it's run, and like we always say, obviously, which is the same topic, a child mimics his parents. The Gemara says, Soif Sukkah, Nunvav Ben Aleph, Shusa Diyanuka, the speech of a child, Oida Abba, Oida Ima. I deal with a lot of cases, a lot of different, in Shalom Bayis, with youth. And one thing I notice very, very, very often is very common, we see how smart Chazal were. Many of the problems that you see in marriages, when grown-ups, a lot of it mimics, parallel the same thing that would happen maybe in the marriage that they saw when they were growing up. Parents are the ikar role models, the ikar mechanchem. Hagam, he's in yeshiva maybe just as many hours. But what he sees at home, because he's a part and parcel of you, what he sees at home, that's how he's going to follow. And those years, especially the early years, if the home is calm, if the home is serene, if the home is warm, if the home is caring, that's what a child's going to grow up. If the home is a home where there is, with his etiquette, with the shalom bias between how much pain and suffering in kids off the derech. Again, there's a lot of sibus. We're not going and pinning it on one thing, but there is for sure a contributor of the fact of the shalom bias. But because again, what cracks a kid, what makes him start to think different, what makes him to look out there is because he's not happy within. The within is what's been built within from the parents and the growing up. And in the home that he's seen, he's not happy. Now it could be for other reasons also. There's other things. We're not only saying, but our job is to understand that that's our main goal, our main avoid in this world. Our main avoid in this world is that Hashem gave us the beautiful gift of a child. A beautiful, beautiful thing, a beautiful bikaron from Shemayim. Our job is that we have to put our attention, our main focus, our priorities into raising him. And raising him just doesn't mean getting the proper base sefer, to go to the proper school, go to the best school, be with the best kids. The number one thing is to create the environment at home where he sees what it means to live a life of a happy, healthy individual who loves Hashem and loves his Torah and loves his family. A child who sees that his parents love their family will be a good father. A child who feels this, sees that his father is so careful and so ernst, such an ernst. He's so trustworthy. He's so truthful. He's so emistic. He's so caring with his wife and the children. That child is going to grow up differently. And when a crisis arises, if the child sees the parent handling the crisis in the right way, that's how you're going to keep the family together. If the father and the mother first understand, as we started, that there's an assignment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever we're getting right now, it's an assignment, and they treated it that. They don't look at it as unfair and start complaining. The complaints only cause the kids to complain whenever they run into trouble. But they realize that, and we sit down with the children and explain that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us nisayon. And nisayon means that a person has unbelievable koiches. The tachlis of every nisayon. It's a fascinating thing, says by Avram Avinu. The Kodesh Baruch Hu told Avram, go and take your son, your only son, and offer him. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Rashi brings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, please, Avram, be oimed on this nisayon. If not, everything else doesn't have so much meaning. And we have Rashi's Apelbaum. I mean, at the end of the day, Avram, this was the 10th nisayon according to many Rishonim. The 10th nisayon was the nisayon of the Akedah. What if you're not successful in this, so everything is nothing. But the answer is that if the Yisod, what a nisayon is, what is nisayon is, nisayon means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring out from a person his fascinating koiches. We don't realize, they tell stories, we've seen articles about it. A 59-year-old grandmother, her son is caught under a car, her grandson's caught under the car. And there's been stories how she runs out and lifts this amazing, humongous car, and where does the koiches come from? I mean, she could barely lift the milk container. But when it comes to a situation where she's forced, where she needs to bring out her koiches, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made an unbelievable thing that a person can unlock greatness if he's pushed to a certain degree. And that greatness, no one would ever think and no one would ever know about this heroic grandmother. Chas v'sholom, we shouldn't need to have an aside, but no one know about this heroic grandmother if this situation didn't arise. Every nisayon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings is not stam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us with the ultimate love. Chofetz Chaim once said that the biggest rush in the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves more than anybody that we know, than the greatest tzaddik that we love. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us to the ultimate degree. He has so much ahava for us. So if he gives us a nisayon, it doesn't have anything to do with the chas v'sholom punishment. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring out that we have koiches that we have to unlock. And if we tap in, we can rise up and bring the whole family up with us. If we understand that it's an nisayon and there's an ability now to unlock greatness, we can take that and build upon it. But if we look upon it as chas v'sholom, and that's the approach that we give to our children, that bad luck, this is Hashem, has punished us and give it. We look at it as chas v'sholom, as punishments and things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to hurt us. So the kid grows up not understanding the right philosophy, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu works. But more, if that's true, so then I won't be able to handle it because I can't handle HaKadosh Baruch Hu's punishments. So therefore, everything falls apart. But if he looks at it as a chance, an opportunity to unlock greatness, so that's how he presents it to his family. So his whole family understands that not just myself, but we're all in this together. All of us have that opportunity to rise and to become great and to become something that we could really, really never knew that we could become. How many of us, went through different difficulties and struggles in life, and we saw at the end, wow, how much have we grown? How much have we improved in so many areas? How much of our marriage has improved, and how much of our relationship with our children? It's chaval that we had to come on to this, and we have chaval that we had to go through this, but the result and the product of this nisayon was that I became such a better person. I became such a different person. I never knew that I could be such a person like that. I always thought that my life was, going to be a certain way, and here I am. My midas are better. My interaction with my wife is better. My relationship with my children are better. It would never have happened. It would have never happened if this nisayon didn't come to us. So we look at the beginning, and when we came to us, it's difficult, and no one's trying to play it down. Having a child, a son or a child or a daughter, somebody that's going through their struggles, and it creates tremendous pressure and tension and difficulty. No one's playing that down. It should never be played down. No one should look at somebody else. At our job, when we see somebody else with the difficulty, is to go out there and to take care of them and to help them, and not to say, oh, it's his struggle. But at the same time, how our view, our outlook, our hashkaf on it has to be so clear that the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to grow and rise in the occasion. Avram would have never been the great Avram. It would have never become part of him. We know it says Avram is Avram Avinu. It says in the Mishnah. He's Avram Avinu. That's the lashon of the Mishnah in Avos. He became our father. How did he become our father? Not just because we're his offspring through the generations, but the Mefarshim say that the Mishnah says on the Mishnah of the 10 Nisyonis that Avram is our forefather, because as Avram went through the Nisyonis, it didn't only become a test for him. As he overcame the test, that became part of his DNA, and it became part of his DNA that meant that today, that we, the Jewish people, have it in them, that they love Eretz Yisrael. People want to go to Eretz Yisrael. They have a feeling for Eretz Yisrael. Where does it come from? Says Rav Chaim Volozhin, it comes from the Nisayon, that Avram went through the challenge, and he overcame it, and it became part of his DNA, and he inherited it to us. And every single of those Nisayon, the fact that people give up their lives, it came from the Nisayon of the Akedah. Everything, even Kamzul Toiva, that we throw that around so beautifully. But the Gamzul Toiva said that came from Avram. When he came, Hashem said, go down to Eretz Yisrael, it'll be great for you. He comes to Eretz Yisrael, famine, he doesn't have a place to stay, he's going from place to place, he has to go all the way down to Mitzrayim. Avram did not complain. Hashem told me to go here, everything's going to be great, your name's going to become great, you'll be famous, you'll have children. He comes there, nothing. He doesn't complain. Gamzul Toiva says, from Deer, and still was that famous quote, that famous statement that was passed down from Avram. So every time that we go through these challenges, that our family goes through a challenge, the explanation has to be, this is opportunity. We didn't ask for it, and we don't ask for the Nisayon. We forget, we daven al tashli, we don't send us to the Nisayon. But when the Nisayon comes, if it comes upon us, if the crisis, the Nisayon comes upon us, we have to define it as a Nisayon. And I explain to our children this opportunity. And to hold us together, we have to realize, we have to have the amunah and bitachon b'Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there for us. That even though we're going through this crisis, we're not alone. We have, first of all, people out there, Balei Chesed, who are here to help in the practical level. And we have the Bari Olam to always rely on. And every matzah that we have to realize to mechazik be'amunah bitachon. Without amunah, we're lost. Be'emes. In this world that we're living in today, it's even more so, Rabbi Yisrael, to see that a person has to realize that his whole life is dependent on amunah bitachon. Without amunah bitachon, a person is totally walking this world lost to the world. He's lost in every which way. If he lives with amunah, if he lives with bitachon b'Hashem, he has simcha and happiness. David Amel says, I'm like a baby in my mother's arms. It means that how does a baby walk around? A baby carefree, he's happy all the time. Okay, he has his times, he's a little happy, he needs to eat, but he's walking around carefree, there's no worries. That's the simcha of a baby. A child has he's so happy there's no worries. Why is no worries? He's being taken care of. David Amel said at his age, he's walking around in that state because the Kodesh Baruch Hu is taking care of him. So to handle and keep the family together, we have to mechazik our own selves. Everything crumbles, right? When you have a pyramid, everything crumbles. If the bottom, the support crumbles. If the bottom falls down, everything comes down. The parent is on top, of course, but he's also the bottom. He's the support. He's the base of everything. The whole house is based on that. If the parent is not remaining strong, if he's falling apart, everything's going to come apart. The parents who are going through the struggle have to mischazik in emunah b'tochen, have to get the proper help, have to seek out the proper help for their family. To keep it together, we have to understand that we're not alone. It's not the Baruch Hashem's with us. The Baruch Hashem's giving us the Nisayon. And if Be'ez Hashem, we look to the Baruch Hashem, we cry out to the Baruch Hashem, we dive into the Baruch Hashem. Be'ez Hashem, b'schus that we understand that it's an Nisayon from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an opportunity for what we're saying. And we have to realize that we're responsible for our kids. We have to protect them in every single matzah, not to let them run. And if we're going through the crisis, to look out for them, to be in touch with them, to know what's going on with them. And finally, Be'ez Hashem, to bring the family up together, to go through the Nisayon and overcome it, Be'ez Hashem, through the proper understanding, through the proper knowledge that the Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't give an Nisayon that we can't overcome. Through the proper knowledge that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is there supporting us through the Nisayon. Through the proper knowledge there's an opportunity for us. Through the proper knowledge that we're the only ones who could give that support to our children. That we have to remain strong for them. And Be'ez Hashem, we should be zocher that the Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us at these trying times with everything going on. That the Kodesh Baruch Hu should see it. That we should be zocher to see Yeshua on all levels. Hashem Yerachim, there's so much sickness and all that. Be'ez Hashem, Hashem should rachman us on His nation, and we should be zocher to see soon the Yeshuas. Mashiach came here, amen. Yeah. If anybody wants to ask, please feel free. Sorry. Oh, doesn't see that. Okay. Yes.
It's not really a question.
Sure.
Question/suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
Why aren't there enough people, Rabbi, to say something to schools, to mosques, to this, to that? It's getting there. It's getting better about like.
About?
It's urgent. Treating the kids.
Oh, okay.
How
Oh.
the kids and how not to embarrass kids, to abuse, to this, all these things.
Very good. So
It's more than,
right.
pushing more.
Yeah, of course. So the question was that why aren't the schools today and the Rabbanim addressing the issues that are on the table out there in different areas of abuse you're referring to, Mr.
Have like a whole big organization.
Yeah.
Go to school and make this is the number one priority.
Right, I hear you. Why aren't schools and even Rabbanim should it being addressed? So let's take the recent issue. What I've noticed around and I've heard also that Baruch Hashem, there are a lot of Rabbanim are addressing the issues to the tzibur. Different Rosh Yeshivas have got up and spoken to their yeshivas about it. So you're talking about more preventive, I think, more than we're dealing with after. Here we're dealing with after the fact, after terrible tragedy. You're 100% right that this type of topic is very, very delicate. But today, because of the situation that's going on, that there's Hashem Yerachim, there's a lot of terrible things going on, and I don't want to get into specifics over here, but the abuse is on different levels. Abuse doesn't have to definitely come into a sexual abuse. There's abuse from Apelbaum that people have. You speak to older generations, they had abuse from different Apelbaums on different levels. It wasn't a level, a sexual level, but it was more. It could be verbal and it could be emotional. Different type of things where kids are being bullied. A lot of issues that are going on in schools today, where kids find themselves victimized by people that want to take advantage of them, and like you're saying, the schools don't talk about it. And I think in a certain there has to be an awareness. Whether it's going to come tafke, in schools, are going to address it in assemblies, But I think you're 100% right. Because what we're seeing is going on, and no one should have to know it, but I've dealt with Talmidim and people that have been victimized, and we can't imagine the pain. People could talk about it and say it, but it's something that's so painful and so unimaginable how much this person, not just in the time, obviously his whole life deals with it, and because of that his whole life has changed, his whole way he's going to grow up, who he's going to marry, everything could be affected in such a serious way, and sometimes till the end of the day he's suffering sometimes, to unimaginable levels, and the person who victimized him, is living, because he wasn't caught. Shem Yerachem was so he's living free, and this guy is, could be many people are living lives of such pain and sorrow because no one discussed it with them, and they were just taken advantage of because they were shy or the type of kid that was vulnerable for it. So therefore, because of that, I think today we must make awareness. So again, I think in a certain way you're right. How to do it and how to address it. It's a delicate topic, but I think there has to be some type of a lot of organizations, but there could be a group of people getting together and promoting that they're making a serious awareness to the tzibur. A rabbanim could do it also, but to make awareness of this nakuda, your body is to yourself. If any time you're in a situation of vulnerability with somebody, you have to report it and tell it over to your parents. Obviously, it has to be investigated in the proper way, but the service shel davar, it must be taken care of and treated seriously and done well. Yeah.
I think, yes, there is that, like you said, verbal abuse or emotional abuse and stuff like that. I think even more. It seems like there's like, wow, it's urgent to take care of blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then it goes like, every place hears about it, every place knows about it. So there should be something like this, that it's a must.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's what I'm saying. That we have to. It has to be established as soon as possible, and discuss and get it out there. A certain system, how we can a system, how to educate the next generation. There has to be maybe put it into the curriculum in some way. It's an embarrassing thing that today we come to a generation that we have to put it into the curriculum, but it should be addressed. I don't say you have to spend months on it and years on it, but sometimes within the year. Again, on which level and ages that has to be discussed with Rabbanim, but it should be having, especially people that are in such situations and that it should be given over clearly and clear as how to recognize it, how to how to know what's going on, how to be able to talk it out and express it to your parents or to your Rabbi or to anybody you feel that you could open up to, and make sure that the child feels that he can't be taken advantage of in any way. A child has to feel that security, and a lot of times he doesn't know what's going on until it's too late. So the awareness will prevent that, even anything starting. And like I said, there also has to be mitzad, in any situation, there has to be some type of people watching out for the predators that are around. That there has to be some type of people seeing out, or making sure that the situations that arise, whether it's by therapists or by situation with Rabbi, they shouldn't be what we call yichud. They have yichud with women. There has to be very careful in these situations because of what we're experiencing today. There has to be, not to say everybody is a suspect, chas v'shalom, but not to be foolish and to be aware that chas v'shalom there could be many problems out there, and we have to address it and take care of it. Yes. Okay. You're welcome.